Good afternoon and welcome to Lunchtime News on TV1. You're with me, Shehan Malatunga. Let's first take a look at your headlines.
Discussions to provide fuel concessions to those who are directly affected by the price hike in fuel. Will Sri Lanka lose the GSP Plus concession that provides tariff concessions to almost 7,200 items in European markets? Order issued to arrest the local agent of the Express Pearl vessel. Whale shark that had washed ashore rescued.
Sri Lanka has said that it is revisiting the Prevention of Terrorism Act. This comes days after the EU Parliament adopted a resolution seeking to suspend the GSP Plus tax concessions granted to Sri Lanka. This was discussed at the Cabinet media briefing today as well.
The fuel price has been increased, concessions to be given to other sectors that will be affected by the fuel price increase.
If it is related to the subject matter, I will understand and I will say yes. If you are talking of child labor, if the facilities are in the factories that produce the products are not in conformity with the requirements of the European Union or whatever, and then if the labor laws are not practiced, which are directly related to the issue. Now, there is justification on that. I honestly don't see a justification for another organization, entity, to bring in rules and regulations asking us to change our constitution. Constitution is the right of the citizens of Sri Lanka. The sovereignty lies within the people of Sri Lanka, not anybody else. If they say anything related to the subject, I will raise my hands. I say, yes, we need to give attention to it. But this is purely total manipulation of some interested court. I am sure the Foreign Ministry will take it up.
Foreign Minister Dinesh Gunawardena told a team of EU envoys yesterday that Sri Lanka has not made arbitrary arrests under the Prevention of Terrorism Act. The EU Parliament adopted a resolution recently seeking to revoke the GSP Plus tax concessions granted to Sri Lanka, primarily citing the misuse of the Prevention of Terrorism Act. Responding to another concern in the resolution, the minister has said that the 20th Amendment has been enacted while adhering to transparency and judicial review. The former minister had insisted that Sri Lanka continues to pay attention to human rights and also addresses measures of accountability and reconciliation. He had observed that the GSP Plus tax concessions have benefited Sri Lanka significantly, especially in the fisheries sector.
MP Talatatu Korala has requested that SSP Shane Abesekara, a former director of the CID, not be subject to political harassment. In a statement, Talatatu Korala stressed that the government should immediately stop the malicious manhunt against Abesekara and all other political prisoners. Talatatu Korala recalled that the imprisonment of Shani Abesekara was also discussed by the European Parliament last week. Now, meanwhile, various opinions are being expressed regarding the increase in fuel prices.
The play written by the Rajapaksas, produced by Viatmaga, is being acted by Karyavasam and Gamman Pilla simply to show that there is some dissent within the government over the decision to increase fuel prices. I believe that conflicts between the Rajapaksas are not something new. They have been there for the past 1.5 years. Their MPs speak with us and tell us about the situation on the inside. This has now exploded, but they are trying to conceal these by performing dramas like this.
හැබැයි එළියට එන්න නොදී මේ වගේ රංගපෑම් නාට්‍ය පෙන්නලා පොඩ්ඩක් ආරක්ෂා කරනවා.
අරගෙන වසරයි වසරක් යනකොට කපුත්.
They have only been in power for a year and they have already lost. There are various views. The cabinet is saying one thing, the spokesperson is saying something else. The minister is of a different stance while the president is issuing some other press release. What kind of government is this? They cannot make a proper decision. What is the point in having a government like this?
පාණ්ඩු කියන්නේ මෙයාට තමයි.
State Minister Nalaka Godaheva expressed views regarding the importation of vehicles for ministers yesterday.
I am not saying this because I need a vehicle, but as a minister I am entitled to 3 vehicles. I use one for myself. The remaining 2 vehicles are under repairs. They are both in the garage. That is the reality. Look at the state ministers today. Look at the vehicles they use. Ministers do not possess so-called luxury vehicles that people think they do. Ministers don't always get the vehicle the minister before him had. A minister is assigned a vehicle used by 2 ministers before him. That's because the previous minister's vehicle is taken over by an official before the new minister assumes duties. That is the reality. Usually a minister is given a vehicle that is 10 years old. I don't like talking about this topic since I didn't come into power for vehicles. Plus these days private vehicles are the ones that are mostly used. Don't look at politicians with hatred. When the public is in trouble, politicians are expected to provide relief. Then they ask the politicians not to take his salary. Think whether those statements are reasonable. Because there are some politicians among us that travel by bus to parliament. There are such politicians as well. Are you telling the politicians to refuse vehicles after stealing? It is not even fair to point fingers at some politicians since they are innocent. There shouldn't be hatred towards them for using vehicles given to them for their official purposes. I travel 100 kilometers per day. 2 out of the 3 vehicles given by the government are not in operational conditions. I use private vehicles. Who is responsible for the expenses spent for that vehicle? We are not complaining. However, the people must be sensitive regarding this matter.
The Attorney General has advised the CID to arrest the local agent of the Express Pearl container ship and produce him before court. Now, for more details regarding the Express Pearl container ship, we now cross over to Newsfirst, Charlene Benedict.
Thank you very much, Shehan. Of course, the Express Pearl disaster that has taken place in Sri Lanka has turned many heads, of course, and we at Newsfirst continue to follow the developments on this controversy quite closely. Was this a planned event? Did this really happen as a coincidence? Was enough steps taken to douse the fire on time? There are many questions that have to date remained unanswered. But on the matter of the local agent, the CID had searched the house and the workplace of this local agent and still have not found him. Meanwhile, the police have also obtained a statement from the veterinarians who conducted the autopsy on the marine life, the carcasses of the marine life that washed ashore on Sri Lankan waters, and investigations are underway into this matter as well to ascertain as to if the Express Pearl disaster had directly had an influence on the death of these large number of marine life that are washing up on the shores. Of course, the general public have many views regarding this situation that is taking place in Sri Lanka, especially the washing up of many turtles and dolphins on Sri Lankan shores. Very emotional. It makes the public very emotional on these matters. And if you have views on this, you can of course use the hashtag #SaveSLTurtles to express your opinion, and we will take note of that in due process. Yesterday, the captain of the sunken MV Express Pearl ship was produced in the High Court. Now, making submissions on behalf of the captain of the MV Express Pearl, President's Counsel Sarat Jaimana pointed out to court a sequence of events that took place since the 20th of May when the ship had first entered the outer harbour of the Colombo port. Now, according to the submissions of President's Counsel Sarat Jaimana in court, the ship had made available the proper information to the relevant authorities, the harbour master, and communications had taken place via the radio on board the ship and between the captain of the ship and the harbour master regarding the situation on board the ship. And according to President's Counsel Sarat Jaimana, in his submissions in court, he had pointed out to court that the harbour master was informed of the situation on board the ship about the leaking dangerous goods container. However, towards 12 noon on the 20th, there was smoke emitting from the ship, and this too had been communicated to the harbour master according to the submissions that were made in court. However, more than 11 hours after that, it was only more than 11 hours after that that the fire on board the ship really ignited, and since then President's Counsel Sarat Jaimana pointed out that proper tugboats and other equipment that were sent to the location to douse the fire were not proper, were not adequate, and as a result, the sequence of events to a certain degree insinuates an intention almost on the parts of the Sri Lankan officials, the Sri Lanka Ports Authority, the harbour master, to allow this fire to spread in view of obtaining compensation. However, the version of events depicted by the Attorney General's Department, making submissions on behalf of the Attorney General's Department, it was said in court that the captain as well as the crew on board the ship had concealed certain details regarding these leaking goods containers. However, at the end of the hearing yesterday, the captain of the ship was enlarged on bail of 2 million rupees. Also, once again, carcasses of turtles and dolphins continue to wash up on Sri Lankan shores, and we are continuing still to receive details of these carcasses that are washing ashore on Sri Lankan shores, of course. Now, if you, of course, do see any of these carcasses that have been washed ashore on Sri Lanka, and you have an opinion regarding this, you can, of course, express them on social media platforms using the hashtag #SaveSLTurtles. The hashtag, once again, #SaveSLTurtles.
Thank you, Charlotte. Fitch Ratings have affirmed Sri Lanka's long-term foreign currency issuer default rating at CCC.
The CCC rating reflects a challenging foreign currency sovereign external debt repayment burden over the medium term, low foreign exchange reserves and high and rising government debt that gives rise to sustainability risks. In a statement, Fitch Ratings said Sri Lanka's medium-term debt service challenges are substantial and pose risks to the sovereign's debt repayment capacity, adding that a total of $29 billion in foreign currency debt obligations are due between now and 2026 against foreign exchange reserves of $4.5 billion as of end April 2021. Fitch Ratings projects foreign exchange reserves to remain at about $4.5 billion by end of 2021 before declining to $3.9 billion by the end of 2022. The statement read, and I quote, "Under our baseline, the current account deficit is likely to widen to 2.8% in 2021 and narrow to 2.1% of GDP in 2022. Fitch also projects a growth of 3.8% in 2021, down from an earlier forecast of 4.9% in light of a recent surge in virus cases. They expect the economy to grow by 3.9% in 2022.
Two whale sharks have been reportedly caught to a fishing net in Kallarava fishing village in Trincomalee. Two whale sharks have been reportedly caught to a fishing net in the Kallarava fishing village in Trincomalee. During the past few days, fishermen have released several whale sharks that were found caught to fishing nets. The lifespan of a whale shark ranges between 70 to 100 years and are a breed of sharks that grow up to 9 meters. The Gammadda initiative launched another project at a village where residents have been suffering due to the lack of clean water for a long time.
The Ralapanava village in the Navagattegama divisional secretariat in the Putlam district is home to about 200 families. These people have been suffering due to the lack of clean water for many years, and they inform our Gammadda teams about their plight. These people, whose livelihoods revolve around farming, are not in a position to purchase bottled water for their use. Residents here point out that contamination of water sources in the area have spread to well water, making this water unusable as well. A project to establish a water filtration system in the village was launched by Gammadda while adhering to health guidelines. Devinka Puswalla, currently residing in the United States, and her relatives joined hands with the Gammadda initiative for this project. The Sri Lankan Navy provided their technical expertise for the project.
Taking a quick look back at some news here at home, Cabinet spokesperson Minister Keheli Rambukvella expressed views regarding providing concessions to those who are affected by the increase in fuel prices.
We did not increase the fuel prices because of our arrogance or because we had a score to settle with someone. Fuel is imported from overseas. We spent about $4 to $5 billion every year. I see this as a difficult decision. We must all bear the responsibility for this, but after accepting responsibility, we are of the opinion that we must also listen to the response of the people. We are discussing about programs to provide targeted concessions to certain groups. Various views are being expressed about this, and I am personally happy because internal democracy that is present in our country cannot be found anywhere else. That is a positive sign. I don't want to mention names. But one of the largest parties in the country collapsed because they did not have internal democracy. We need to set some boundaries for internal democracy, and if someone is breaching those boundaries, we will discuss the matter inside the party and take action and not come out to the streets and speak about it. This is internal democracy. There are issues when there are 11 parties working together. We will take into consideration their views and manage this situation on the inside.
නොවන ආකාරයට මේ කළමනාකරණය කිරීම අභ්‍යන්තරයේ වැඩසටහන.
උදේ ගම්මන්පිල ඇමතුමා මෙම කැබිනට් මාධ්‍ය සාකච්ඡාවට සහභාගී වෙනවා කියලා විශේෂ දැනුම් දීමක්.
Minister Uday Gammampila said that he will be present at the cabinet media briefing. We thought that he will attend this media briefing and explain the situation. We thought that he will show the message that the president sent him. There was a fuel stabilization fund that was established. For example, that fund is like putting coins into a pocket with a hole. The fund is no more and the concessions to the people are also no more. What really happened to this fund?
මොදලුත් නැහැ. දැන් ඇත්තටම මේ අරමුදලට මොකක්ද වුනේ ඇමතුමා?
අරමුදලක් ඇති කිරීම සම්බන්ධව සාකච්ඡා වුණ එක ඇත්තයි. හැබැයි මතක තියාගන්න ඕනේ.
There were discussions on the establishment of a fuel stabilization fund, but this fuel problem has been present in the country for a long time. I have not brought the details today. As you said, the minister was due to come here, but he couldn't, as he had to attend an important meeting. When we speak about the fund, we must not forget the fact that the CPC is suffering massive losses and how the CPC can be taken forward. There is a very simple equation on what can be done with the money in a fund accumulated during 6 months at an institution that has been suffering losses for 10 years. We have to definitely discuss on how we can provide concessions to various industries in the country, including the fisheries industry. We are bound as a government to hold discussions on these matters and take the relevant action.
සවටගෙන අවශ්‍ය කටයුතු කිරීමට රජයක් හැටියට අපි බැඳී සිටිනවා කියලා ප්‍රකාශ කරනවා.
And that wraps up your lunchtime news right here on TV1. Thank you for watching.